Good morning, grandkids. Well, we are back with the final chapter of Joseph's book, The Lonely Worlds. But before we start reading it, I wanted to say something to you on behalf of Joseph. I know that we've all enjoyed this book so much, and I have already done this. But for all of you, I have a personal request of you. I would like each of you to go to Joseph's book page on Amazon, which I will leave the link down below in the description. Please get used to checking down there in the descriptions under my videos. I leave information there for you, and it's for you to access. So I'm going to leave this link down there. Go to the Amazon bookstore page of Joseph's and scroll all the way down on the left side, and you will find a line that says leave customer review. Click on that and you will have a space to tell them how you felt about the book, what you liked or didn't like. I don't know how you could not like anything. It's so exciting. But leave a review, because that will help Joseph out, and it also helps out Amazon in selling books to read the reviews that they get about a book. Also, I'm going to leave down below in the description a link to Joseph's website. And this isn't just a request, this is a quest that Grandma is giving you. I've been there already. Go to his website, which is josephrussellauthor.com, and I'll leave that down below also. Once you're there, there's so much to read and to look at, but this is like a quest going into a cave searching for treasure. Just go there and click on the tab at the top that says books and the tab at the top that says stories, for sure, those two. And you will find lots of treasure. Lots of treasure. He has so many things to tell. It reminds me of making my short stories for Skyrim. So go there, you will thoroughly enjoy it. I promise you. Now be sure and look down below in the descriptions. Now let's finish this last chapter of this book. I hate to see this end. But remember, at the end of the last chapter, they finally got to travel again, and the person that has been calling them is called the Guardian. He's the guardian, evidently, of the universe, of life or something. So at the end of this chapter, he lets Haley and Felix know that he is dying, and he's ancient. But he's finally dying, and he needs someone to replace him and become the next guardian. And this is why he's been calling people to his realm. He has to select a guardian. Or maybe it was only supposed to be that one would finally make it all the way there without being killed, and that person would be strong enough to become the next guardian. But here are two, Haley and Felix. So what's the guardian gonna do? He says, I need someone to replace me. My task is of the utmost importance, and the position of guardian must be filled. And yet, here are two of you. In the meantime, those hateful black monsters have appeared, 3 of them. And as they burst into life, The guardian says, there can only be one guardian. But here are two of them. So, starting the next chapter, the last chapter. The left monster goes for me. The other two go for Haley. I only just managed to slay one before. How can we possibly hope to defeat three? Consider this the final test, the man continues, suddenly no longer beside us, and instead watching dispassionately from the foot of the gates. Whichever of you should succeed will have shown themselves capable of taking my mantle. Should either of you fail, then the choice of who should replace me is made for us. Really, who would it be? I stab wildly at the creature, aiming to weaken it by landing the first strike, but it blocks my blade with a claw and bites at my face. I lean away from the attack, but to my right, I can see Haley pinned to the floor by another. They were like you once, the man carries on, before the darkness reached them. The one you're struggling with was once a Transanian warrior, long before your time. And that one, he gestures at Haley, was a Martian architect. They all turn just the same. So is this going to be what's in store for Felix and Haley? The beast slashes at my stomach, widening the wound its brother dealt on the gray world. I'm falling apart. I'm amazed I've lasted this long. Ignoring the pain and seeing an opening, I attempt to plunge my knife into the gap in the monster's armor. I found that I'd found before, but instead it blurs backwards out of my reach, and I stumble forward, having already committed myself to the strike, and the beast leaps back at me, its jaws wide. An arrow takes one of its legs out from underneath it, and it trips, tumbling past me as I leap away to the right. I turn, amazed Haley's managed to escape the monsters, but she's still on the ground, holding one back with her bow as a brace. So, who? Another arrow shoots over my shoulder, hitting one of the monsters attacking Haley in the torso, and I twist to see the shooter, which is also Haley. What? The stricken monster staggers backwards, and the Haley on the ground lashes out at the other creature while its eyes are on her double. The second Haley rushes it as the first slips a knife into that weak point in its armor. I have to turn to fend off my own attacker, but I hear Haley, one of them, say, "The door in your mind, open it. It'll work this time." When I next glance around, there's only one Haley, locked in combat with the monster that had taken the arrow. "Guess you're not so special," Haley taunts me. "Time travel. Piece of the cake." "You should be careful with that," the guardian calls to us, observing passively from afar. "It is good to see you using the power that has already passed from me into you, but crossing your own timeline like that is a terrible idea." "Well, excuse us for trying to survive," Haley cries, darting away from her foe and spinning around with her knife. My monster hisses suddenly, and in my mind I hear a word. And I'm surprised, both by the complexity of the concept and the fact that it means me. Abomination. He says, and the fact that it means me? Abomination. Its fury bursts like a dam has broken, and it lunges for me, both claws sweeping round like a vice closing on my throat. I duck below the strike, the wound in my belly screaming, and I plunge my blade up into that gap between its armor. Spasms shake its body, its mouth opening in a silent howl, and as I pull my knife free, it judders backwards and collapses. Quick as a flash, I move onto Haley, who I find locked together with the last monster in a desperate struggle. Her nose is broken, and blood streams from a gash in her side, but like me, she refuses to give up. It occurs to me that this one's bigger than the other two and bulkier, with a longer abdomen that stretches behind it, almost like a twisted reflection of a horse. Ian. Haley, I shout, and pull her back from the snapping, snarling creature. It's Ian. She gasps, realizing that I'm right, but it's all she can do to bring her bow up to block its claws before they reach her. Ian, I shout, listen to me. But the beast simply turns and hurls itself at me. I stab upwards, but my blade bounces off its armor, and it's on me, forcing me to the ground. Your friend is dead, the guardian says. This is why we walked the path alone, and why I guided the three of you together. You must learn to let go. The monster that was Ian bites at me, its razor-sharp teeth closing on my shoulder, right where the lizard beast bit me back where I first met Haley. I scream, blood spraying across the monster's face, but it doesn't let go. I pound weakly at the creature's armor with my knife, but I can't find an opening. I can't take much more of this. Haley's by my side. She hesitates for a fraction of a second that feels like a lifetime, and then her knife thuds into the monster's abdomen. It howls a terrible sound, and for a moment it sounds like the last cry of our friend when he was attacked by the black monster. And then it lies still. I fall to the ground. So Ian more or less died twice, didn't he? I fall to the ground, clutching my ruined shoulder, despite the agony of the wound in my belly. I'm losing a lot of blood. Haley's kneeling beside me. Heal him, she screams at the old man, who's now standing right alongside her. If I do, I'll die, the man says quietly, and I still have much to explain. You must be trained in the way of O. You must learn what it means to be guardian. Haley rushes him in a burst of uncharacteristic ferocity, pinning him to the ground, her knife against his throat. His hood falls back as he hits the ground, revealing the face of a man in his 70s, his skin haggard and wrinkled, his hair white. Sounds like me, and I'm older than that. I'm surprised at how ordinary he seems. Save him. He does not struggle. Haley, I croak, unable to raise my head. The world is starting to darken and my chest is wet with blood. And it's starting to pool around me. I weakly move my fingers to feel it. Ew, I wouldn't want to. It's warm and sticky. Haley, I try again. Don't. Shut up, she hisses at me, moving the knife quickly enough to draw a little of the guardian's blood. I'm saving you, Felix. He's saving you. The guardian stares at her. His ancient eyes flick to me and then back to her. He sighs, and the exhaustion of the years is heavy on his face again. Lying here now, I feel a little of his pain. Death waits, smiling from the wings, nodding gently as we say our last lines, ready to welcome us off the stage with warmth and praise. One of us will go to him now, I can feel it. So be it, the man says finally. I'll heal her, and there will be two. But you must remember that there can only be one. Choose between yourselves. Of the thousands I called, only you two made it to the end. Only you two are fit for the task. The call will guide you from world to world. Your task is to find the darkness and purge it and seal the wounds where they entered. Let me up and I will explain. Then I'll heal your friend. Slowly she withdraws her knife. The man gets to his feet and walks over to the monster's corpses. Despite the pain, I turn my head to follow him. He steps over the bodies, approaching the shimmering patch of darkness waiting in the air. More will follow through here, he says. The darkness is infinite, and this is a hole in its cage. He raises his scarred hand, allowing it to hover mere inches away from the black. It is the role of the guardian to seal the wounds before they spread like a cancer and consume the life of each and every world. He turns to look at us. Did you ever wonder why, whichever world you visited, you were alone? It's true. I had wondered before many times. Those were worlds in the darkness had claimed. All sentient life gone. Worlds without intelligence, without civilization, without souls, without the guardian to seal the wounds, to keep the gates closed. All worlds would be emptied. Plants, beasts, and ashes would be all that remained. The fire world, I managed to say, and he nods grimly. They resisted, but I could not save them. He turns toward me, almost gliding through the dust to be by my side. He fixes me with a gaze full of sorrow and raises his scarred hand. Closing my eyes does nothing to shield me from the light. It floods me, embraces me, utterly consumes my body. As I was in the cave when I first heard his voice, I am filled with a sense of total peace. When the light finally fades, my wounds are healed again. Haley sighs with relief and pulls me up, wrapping me in her arms. I turn back to look at the man, but he's crumbling like dust. His skin and robes flaking away into nothing. As he fades, all that's left is a simple silver pendant, a pentagram crudely etched into it, and his voice in the air. There must always be a guardian. We sit on the ground where the guardian last stood, the darkness hovering not far away, and we talk. One of us must take the guardian's place, and though it's still not entirely clear to us what precisely that would involve, it's obvious that the one who takes up the pendant will never return home. What about the other? I ask Haley. Well, the guardian could send us where he wanted, so whoever takes his place could send the other home, couldn't they? That makes sense, I nod. Is that... I trail off. She looks at me expectantly. Is that what you want? I finish. She frowns. It's what I always wanted, she says. But I couldn't leave you on your own. That wouldn't be fair. I can't help but smile faintly at her kindness. It says a lot about her that she would even consider that. We've both been away a long time, and she has a life waiting for her back home. Family. It's funny, I say. I always wanted to go home too. But the idea of letting you do this by yourself, I couldn't bear it. She smiles back at me and we find ourselves looking into each other's eyes. I lean slightly closer to her. For a moment, we both see something hovering in the air between us. Something that could be. Perhaps in another life, in some alternate timeline where none of this ever happened to us. In that universe where we're both just normal people living normal lives, I lean all the way and I kiss her and she kisses me. We hold each other and the sun comes up and we live our lives. We might go on a few dates. We might end up together. We might not. Who knows? We'd give it a try anyhow. Maybe we'd get married. Maybe we'd have kids. Maybe we'd grow old together. And one day, we'd move on together for one last time. But that's not our story. There is no future where we end up together. Haley deserves better. She deserves to go home, to be with her family, to live a normal life apart from this. I've decided right now that I'm going to become the guardian and I'm going to send her home. We both pull away at once. I'm doing it, we say at the same time, with equal determination. Haley, I tried to say, but she talks over me. You deserve better, Felix, she insists. You deserve to go home. You have a family, and they need to know you're alive. I shake my head. Then you can find them and tell them for me, I say. You're going home, Haley. Let me give this to you. Damn it, Felix, she cries, getting to her feet. Stop trying to be the hero. Let me do this. Let me save you. I pull myself up after her and look her in the eye. I can't let you do that. I can't let you sacrifice yourself for me. Same here, she says. We're practically squaring off against each other now, both furious at the other's stubbornness. I take a deep breath. Okay, I say, lowering my voice and sitting again by our packs. Let's take a minute. Calm down and let's talk about this some more. She lets out a long breath and eventually sits down beside me. Fine, she says. The guardian said we had a few hours before that opens again. She points to the patch of darkness. We sit in silence for a few moments and my stomach growls. Neither of us was expecting it and we both giggle. When did we last eat, she asks. Dinner last night, I think, I say. No wonder I'm starving. We both brought a few bundles of roots from the gray world with us in our packs. It's a habit we've always kept up, never knowing when we'll need to move on and if there'll be any food when we arrive. We chew on them quietly for a while and Haley gently takes my hand. Neither of us says anything. When we're done with our last meal, my mind's totally made up. We should drink, too, I say, rummaging in my backpack for a few moments before producing my bottle. I lift it to my lips, but then I offer it to Haley instead. There isn't much left, I say. Take what you want, and I'll have the rest. She shakes her head. That's sweet, Felix, but it's yours. I insist, I say firmly. Let me be a gentleman just this once. She laughs and takes the bottle, allowing herself a couple of quick sips. I've decided, she says suddenly, you're going home. Without you, I'd be dead right now, so it's only fair. You've saved me too, I say, shaking my head. We're never going to agree on this, are we? She laughs. Probably not, I reply sadly. So we keep arguing until you accept that I'm right. She takes another sip from the bottle and licks her lips. "This tastes amazing," she says, surprised. "I guess I was thirsty." She hands the bottle to me, but I let it fall to the ground, the purple-tinged water spilling out onto the dust. Why is it purple-tinged? I forget it. She looks at me, horror spreading across her features as she realizes what I have done. "The berries," she says, "from the river world." "We were never going to agree," I reply. She stands, anger in her eyes, and takes a step towards me, but sways on her feet. "Felix, that's not fair." She raises a hand, and for a moment she looks like she's going to hit me, but she starts to topple instead. I jump up to catch her, gently lowering her to the ground. "Let me save you," I whisper. She shakes her head, her eyes starting to close against her will. "You shouldn't be alone," she murmurs back. A tear rolls down my cheek, and I realize that I'm crying. Her eyes are wet too. "Neither should you," I tell her, but she's already asleep. I look down at her, lying peacefully in my arms, her hair matted, her face blotchy from the tears she never quite shed, and it occurs to me that she's utterly beautiful. But I already know what I have to do. I lay her down softly and get to my feet. The pendant lies waiting in the dust where the guardian left it. I pick it up, and I can practically feel the power bound inside it. I glance at Haley for one last time as the man she traveled with, and slipped over my head. It pulses, the world throbs, and suddenly I can feel everything, the whole of reality pouring through my mind. I can feel the world, billions of them, spinning through the void, and know every single one of them. I feel the darkness behind the gates, and I sense the wounds in the worlds through which it floods. Black, clinging, and evil beyond comprehension. I feel the call to go to them, to seal them, and I know that's my destiny. But there is one thing I must do first. I go to Haley and brush my hand against her cheek. Already the scar, the pentagram, is emerging on my palm. She doesn't stir. "Live," I whisper, kissing her forehead, and reach out with my newly opened mind, finding the bright light of billions of souls on one particular world. Earth. Home. I wrap the thought of Haley in the light of that world, my palm glowing with power, and she is gone. Finally, after all this time, she's gone home. I can afford no such luxury. I have work to do. The darkness is growing, and only I can hold back the tide. I turn to the wound in the world through which it spoke to us before. With a burst of power, I seal it irrevocably shut. Then I open the door in my mind, and I move on to the world where the next wound waits, ready to drive back the monsters that pour forth. My name is Felix Aiden Lewis. I am the guardian, and I am alone. The end. Good grief, guys. That almost makes me cry. That was so cool. So cool. So please, please, do me this favor and go to the Amazon webpage and write a review for Joseph's book. Let Amazon know what you thought about the story, how it was written. And please, as going on a quest for Grandma, go to Joseph's website and look at all he has there. The books and the stories. You'll be happy that you did. And it will make me happy. And it will make Joseph happy. So that's all this time, grandkids. This was reading a real life book, so I did it as a vlog. But next Friday, we'll be back to our bookshelf series the way it was and is originally, and reading some books that is in Skyrim, which Grandma Shirl's has in the basement of her house in Riften, and we will be down there selecting books to read. I think I will go back to using square picture in the corner. Where is my corner? I'll try to make it a little bigger this time. And instead of just showing cartoony grandma sitting there in the basement, I'll be in the picture in the corner reading books to you in our bookshelf series, okay? And everybody's been requesting that we read the Wolf Queen series. That's quite a few books. And I have no idea what that story is about or what it's like or anything. But if that's still what you want, that's what I'll start reading next, okay? The Wolf Queen series. So don't forget to check in the descriptions down below under the video. Goodbye, grandkids. Have a nice day, and I'll see you next Friday. Bye-bye.